Thank you. So, I'm standing here, and what is the reason I'm standing here? Because this is Crossroads number 3, and I want to ask everyone 2 questions before we kick this off, which is number 1, who is new to Crossroads? Who is this your first Crossroads? New? Okay, to everybody who's new, you guys too, welcome. Thank you for making the journey. This is your second Crossroads. How many people is this your second? Thank you for coming back. Okay, the big question. Number 3, who out there has been to all 3 Crossroads conferences before? Hey, there's one right there. Anybody else? I think we got one person. That's amazing. So everybody is new except in terms of 3 conferences. So thank you so much for coming here. The second question that I have for everybody is, who is familiar with CHOMP, Moonwalk, DuelDuck? How many people out there? Hands in the air? Okay, we got a couple of people out there. That's amazing. By the end of this, everybody is going to be familiar because that's what we want. All right, guys. So I want to kick this off with a 15-second lightning fast. Who are you? What are you doing? What are you building? Why are you building it? 15, 30 seconds, starting with you, Isaac.
So I'm Isaac. I'm one of the co-founders of CHOMP, which is 2 things. The front end of it is a quiz game that will earn you bonk for answering questions accurately. And the back end of it is a novel form of information market that unlocks an entirely new dimension for prediction markets and derivatives. That is markets for subjective information.
Awesome. Caitlin?
Hi, guys. I'm Caitlin Cook. I'm the Director of Growth at Moonwalk Fitness. Moonwalk is trying to help people move more daily to live healthier lives. We're doing that by combining daily step goals and financial incentives to help people build healthy habits that actually last. And that's basically it. Just step more and feel better.
Let's go. You also had an event, I think, the other day. Yeah?
Yeah, yesterday. We did a walking tour of Istanbul.
That's awesome.
Great.
Super cool. And?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Stan Horuna, and recently I was like karate high-level athlete. But right now I'm developing a P2P prediction service, which actually moves the main money-making feature to the users. So if we're talking about the decentralization, this is how it should work like conceptually. Because with DuelDuck, users create not just doing the correct predictions as they do on other prediction platforms, but here they can create duels, predictions, and make money from that. So they become the house.
Cool. That's amazing.
So like, let me ask people, like we can create a prediction right now.
Okay. What's the prediction?
So like, raise hands. Who thinks that Solana will raise by 10% in 3 days after Solana Crossroads?
Okay. Let's see. Hands in the air. Who thinks Solana's going up 10% after Solana Crossroads within the next month, let's say? Hands in the air.
Who think yes?
You guys are
Who think
very
yes?
bearish.
Who believes in
Very
Solana?
bearish.
Come on, guys.
It's a conference curse.
Okay, who
guess
thinks
it
no?
is. Okay, we got a couple of bears out there. Okay, we'll see what happens.
More people believe that Solana will go up.
I like that. That's the right
Hope so.
attitude. Cool. So whenever I think about consumer crypto, I ask myself the question of how do we even define what consumer is? And then I think about it like this. How many people here have heard of Saudi Aramco before? Does anybody know what Saudi Aramco is? Okay. We got somebody right here. Anybody else? Basically, nobody knows what Saudi Aramco is. Who knows what Apple is? Anybody know what Apple is? Wow, I'm surprised. I bet you more people have iPhones than hands that are in the air right now. So,
But look, Chris, so many people doesn't know what Apple is.
it's crazy. So,
Guys, really? What are you doing in crypto world then?
the point that I'm making here is that when we're thinking about consumer products, I think about things like Apple, and when I think about Saudi Aramco, which, by the way, is the 6th most valuable company in the world, that's an enterprise product. So I just want to ask the participants up here, how do you think about consumer products, and how does your product specifically fit into that framework, that way in which you think about approaching building?
So for CHOMP, we think a lot about perception and how people think. So I'll talk about this actually a lot more tomorrow during my talk. But people respond to different kinds of incentives and do different things. And those things change how people view things. And so we care a lot about building things that are trying to change people's perceptions towards reality and towards something that allows them to connect and create conversations with other people. And there's a lot of things in that kind of world that you can do to kind of bring perceptions together and make them more accurate.
Cool. Caitlin?
The way I think about it broadly from, in terms of what consumer applications are solving for is like, we're in this space, we're building a lot. Typically it's for, a lot of the people who are already here, maybe niche use cases, maybe a little bit more technical, some things that maybe a little more nerdy that some of us care about, but try translating that to a mainstream audience and the traction most likely will not be there. Hopefully it will be for some things. When I think about consumer applications, it's more of us meeting them where they are rather than them coming to us, which I think has been sort of a backwards mindset we've seen in previous years. And what we're doing for Moonwalk specifically is large total addressable market, going along with what we've seen in terms of like societal trends around we want to live healthier. It's become part of the cultural conversation to make health and feeling good cool again, which I'm glad that it is, obviously. And also, that health is the one thing that matters no matter what in an age of abundance where, there's more wealth than there's ever been, there's more resources, more things going on. None of that matters if you don't have your health. But a lot of the time, a lot of the products out there or programs for, mainstream consumers, which is who we're going after, are sort of set up in a way that I think set users up to fail, where they're overly complicated, they're not something that can be sustained, they're expensive, they may not be accessible to a certain market because of that pricing or maybe geographical location, you need to be in person. So what we're trying to do with Moonwalk is where's the easiest place that we can start that will benefit people's lives positively, that the most number of people can do. Most of us have two legs. Hopefully they work. Obviously not always the case, but that covers most of the world. So starting with step-based contests just to get people moving more in a day, that's something that regardless of your lifestyle or where you are, you should be able to integrate. And you'll see positive impacts if you increase what that step count is per day from wherever you started.
Very cool. I'm curious about that. How many people who use Moonwalk have never used anything in crypto before, and that's actually their entry point?
I mean, anecdotally, we've definitely had a lot of conversations with users who have that story. Like my mom uses Moonwalk. I've been in crypto for 4 or 5 years, and this is the first product that I've worked on that my mom understands. She's just, kind of supported blindly till now, which is great too. And also the first one she's ever used. And she signed up for it, I was not there at the time, obviously wanted to try it out, and she's been joining games for free, just participating in it and sending me screenshots of her step count. So right now, more of the audience is definitely crypto slated just in terms of where we're at with building the product out, but the end state is a crypto-powered product, a Solana-powered product that users can onboard to and use without needing to know or caring to know that it's on-chain or that they have to have crypto to get started, because those are ultimately friction points that we're trying to solve for. So more of a crypto-based audience now, but directionally going towards more of those stories where it's their first experience with users on-chain. And Solana All-Stars has been helpful with that as well as using Moonwalk as an onboarding tool at their events.
Shout out All-Stars. Really appreciate it. By the way, how many All-Stars do we have? How many All-Stars do we have? Okay, we've got quite a few. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. You guys rock. I'm very curious to hear your take, Stan, on just the idea of mass consumer onboarding by creating an application that it's already something everybody does, but you can improve it through crypto. What is your take on that? How are you approaching that with DuelDuck?
Well, talking about the crypto consumer crypto, like it's if you're using something same easily and simple like you're using TikTok or Instagram, but it is built on chain. This is consumer crypto. So me as the new person for the crypto world, I'm actually have the perception of Web2 user. So that's how we trying to develop DuelDuck. So our prediction service is the interface of it. We try to simplify it as maximum as possible because our target audience is Web2 users. So we need to onboard them. And we need to understand that not even onboarding is difficult for Web2 users, but also the entry into the system is also like a challenge. So what we did, we did a login via Telegram. Also, we give them the opportunity to log in via email or with any like other crypto wallet they already have. If they don't have, they can get one DuelDuck wallet right in the app. So like give them all the opportunities that they used to. Let them choose, let them make it in the way they are familiar with. Okay, and also users they shouldn't know about, what's gas fee, about the transaction cost and so on. And actually it's a challenge for them to get the crypto assets. And then when you ask them to make predictions in USDC, but they have like, I don't know, USDT, like they don't need to think about it. So what we did, we developed the auto swap. So whatever crypto they have, the system will auto swap it into USDC and Solana to pay for the transaction. And so we turned this problem actually into one of our ways of monetization, because on each transaction we will have like our commission.
That's something I'm super curious to ask you guys about, is just monetization and thinking about user acquisition versus the monetization phase, and kind of where you guys are at, how you think about that, incentive structures. How do you think about user acquisition versus monetization? Isaac?
Yeah, so I think I will have a very different answer to this question than Caitlin or Stan here, because CHOMP is monetizable in a very different way from most consumer products. So because CHOMP is actually a market, we take fees from users participating in the markets. In the long run, that's not the only revenue generation source that CHOMP will have. But we are actually already generating revenue. We already have a cost structure, and users are paying to use the product. And so our kind of user acquisition phase involves a monetization strategy, one of the long run monetization strategies that we'll have. And users are paying potentially to get incentive, potentially to have fun because they're curious about what the answers are or what other people think about these questions. And they're very, random questions. Like, for example, do penguins have knees? Or has Solana bottomed? But so we actually monetize these already. And so the monetization is actually part of our user acquisition strategy, where they're paying for the opportunity to win, in addition to sorts of like these other things that make their perception such that like, hey, I enjoy using this product. I want to use this product. I enjoy doing this with my friends, talking about it, really whatever. And so monetization is actually directly part of our user acquisition strategy. And I think that's different from basically all consumer apps that we've seen scale to this point. Yeah, I think, that's that.
What about you, Caitlin?
It's an interesting question for us because for Moonwalk right now, I mean, there are opportunities in which we could take revenue in several ways, but one of those being, obviously there's a prize pool for each game that's dependent on whether or not users hit steps. Part of the deposit they put up front goes to a prize pool. We could easily take a rake off of that, but we don't, because for us, in terms of user acquisition and in making the experience, seamless and simple and, something that people really enjoy, we're going to go with trying to onboard as many users as possible with as little friction or potential, things that might trip them up as possible. And we care more about getting as many people in the door and trying the product as possible, more than monetizing immediately. Because once we have, as a fitness app, if we have a large audience of users, there are so many different ways that we've already thought about that we could, work with different brands that want to get in front of a fitness-oriented audience for advertising, and work with different, this is a walking app. So if we ever had like a map with, if you're in different cities and we could gamify it more where you're like walking past different stores, those stores might want to increase foot traffic to whatever they're selling. Like, those are two examples, but there's a lot that we could do, and we made the conscious decision to not monetize immediately because the feedback that we've gotten from people who have tried the app, our data on users who have joined their first games, who have joined a second and continue on, is very high, and that's incredibly strong signal. So we just want to get them in and started, and that's been priority number one, as well as obviously making the experience better as we go.
Makes a whole lot of sense. So get as many people in the door as possible, and then you can turn the different levers to make money. Cool. Stan, did you have anything else you wanted to add on the monetization front?
Yeah, about monetization. I think that, like, first of all, you have to give the value. Before getting the money revenue stream from your users' activity, you have to bring the value. Actually, I see the analogy with the sport, because you cannot have like unique strategy or tactics against all the competitors, all the other athletes. that you have to fight with, because somebody will be faster. So if this guy is extremely fast, you cannot compete with him using your speed. Or if that guy is extremely strong, you cannot use your power like to overwhelm him, overplay him. So you have to be smart and find another way. And same here. If you see that on the market there are already few players and they have big resources, and so they can easily get huge paid traffic, like that's not the way to compete with them. So find another things. Through your value, and develop new patterns of interest in your users. That's how you can get them and engage them and settle for a long time. So what I mean, like in DuelDuck, we don't like get money like just from people. So first of all, we give them the opportunities to make money. We give them like the toolkit how to earn, and not just for regular users, but also for other projects, KOLs, newsmakers, or like for anyone who has any engagement with the commitments with the communities. So we are for users, we are the service they can make money. For KOLs and communities, we are the instrument that they can engage more with their audience. So, and only if like everything goes well, we have our part. That's it. So value is more than monetization.
I want to give a +1 to what Caitlin said. Getting as many users in the door for free and just like letting them use the thing and get value out of it is like incredibly important. I didn't talk about that, but we actually also have a free version of our product, and getting people in the door to engage with these things and like, oh, like it's not crypto, like I'm just kind of like doing this thing. That's really kind of the key of like, okay, like now we can go to a much wider audience.
What do you guys wish that people understood about consumer crypto products that they don't? If you could put something on a billboard and just tell people something, what would you want to tell them? Any of you?
You're not going to need to, like, if it's truly a consumer crypto product, you should not be scared away by the word crypto being used, because it should not be a point of friction in you using the product. That's the end state. And I think previously, and whether it's from, not the necessary infrastructure not being possible in previous years, like the attempts that we've seen are, oh, well, this really cool product, and you're like, oh, this sounds great, how do I use it? Well, you need a wallet, or oh, you buy this NFT, or you need tokens. And every single comment like that just creates friction that immediately turns people off of using the product. So much of it in like the onboarding flow and just kind of what hoops the user has to jump through, like that is the most important thing. And I think there's historically been a bad taste left in people's mouths of what that experience has looked like previously for apps that are consumer, but not necessarily like in practice.
What is the perfect onboarding flow?
Still working on that. as few steps as possible to get from signing up into the product to touch and feel it and like actually experience the value of it, rather than someone needing to sell you on it to actually start the process. I think it boils down to that, and there's different ways to do that. Like we're working on it for Moonwalk right now, and like long story less long, it comes down to how do we cut the steps in the process? How do we make it so it looks and feels like what Web2 users are used to in an onboarding process where nothing feels foreign, so there's familiarity? And then also like, how do we, like we have a free game model, for example, when you join Moonwalk. So if people are scared away by the idea of putting money up right away, we just immediately eliminated that fear because there's another option. So it kind of eliminates excuses for them to not get started with it, if that makes sense.
What do you think people's biggest fears are, or biggest barriers to getting started using consumer crypto apps today? Like what are those barriers? If you had to just simplify that as like one thing that you could solve.
Optics.
Yep.
I think, what Caitlin said is basically spot on. Like people have a very strong sense of, I don't want to use a crypto product, or I'm okay with using a crypto product. There's not really that many people who are like in the middle of that distribution. Basically everyone has an opinion on whether or not crypto is good or bad. And that is really the problem. Like it is strictly an optics problem of like people just don't want to use your product if the word crypto is involved.
At what point in time are crypto companies going to start moving away from calling themselves crypto companies? I know they should. I know they should. At least some
I think it's
should.
happening.
You think it's
I
happening
do
already?
think it's happening.
I think the teams who are thinking about it the right way are doing that. I mean, depending on what the product is, obviously, right? So, like, for something like the products that we're building, I always say Moonwalk is a fitness app first, or like a fitness product built on chain first, not a crypto project that focuses on fitness. And I think that mindset hopefully should be shared by other teams who say they're building a consumer product, because at the end of the day, that's the North Star for what the ultimate focus should be of like where you are at and where you want to go.
Yeah, crypto is a design choice primarily for back-end infrastructure stuff. And like it does not really matter to the consumers. Like no consumer cares if your program is written in like C or Rust or whatever. Like they don't really care about what your back-end looks like. And they're never going to. So like it just doesn't matter. And like no one should be using crypto as a selling point. Like we describe CHOMP as like it is a front end is a quiz game, the back end is an information market. We don't talk about crypto. Crypto just enables us to create these markets in a permissionless way, a trustless way, allows us to do transactions easily. It's just a design choice that this is a better backend for our product.
Yeah, actually, I agree with the guys. Look, in the last year, we had this meme coin hype, clicker games hype, and these things, they brought mass market. Like they brought, they engaged and interested like lots of Web2 users. And what it shows us that we can bring more people if we make it simple and fast, right? So we really should not, like, even if we are crypto, we should live this for ourselves, for our developers, and for the guys who are from our world. But in the public positioning, we should forget about crypto word crypto. Yeah.
So simple, fast, better backend, but don't say crypto on the front end.
Exactly.
People just need to see the benefits of it. Like, at the end of the day, the best messaging and storytelling comes from, like, we are at our core, like, selfish people in the sense that what does this do for me? And I feel like cutting through the more like ethos-driven narratives that most people necessarily don't care about, especially for consumer apps, because there's so many apps out there not built on chain that consumers have as an option today. That's not, the ethos of it's probably not going to be the selling point. It's going to be a better working product, like significantly so, and in a way that's undeniable that makes them want to take the time to switch. Because if there's any other story told where it's more like, oh, like decentralization, like that's not it. And I think we've seen that time and time over, and people are starting to learn that that's not going to get someone who's not already in this space to make a change.
Yeah, I think the best example of this is just like NFTs. Everyone was like, oh, like all creators will use NFTs for everything. And like, that's what all creation, will end up as because it's, better and they own it. And like, yes, like that's true. But also they're not going to do that because of that. Like they don't care enough about the technology behind it. That means like they own it. That doesn't really make a difference in their perception of like what this thing is.
Well, like what we should focus on is actually the interface of our product and the easy way how to get them in. Yeah, so people actually like the same trend with all these meme coins and clicker games. They showed us that people don't care about security. They are too lazy to remember all these seed phrases, to remember these complicated passwords, to do these 3, 4, 5 steps authentication processes. Like they just want to be already inside and on the place where they can do the action. That's it. Especially, when we offer them the entertainment, CHOMP, Moonwalk, DuelDuck, they don't want to get overcomplicated, overwhelmed with what is crypto and how to learn, how to manage with all these processes.
All right, so we're almost at time, and there's one final thing that I want to end with, which is each person just given, a final thought, 15 seconds, 20 seconds that we can wrap it up with, and a prediction in terms of when are we going to have a consumer crypto app that has 1 billion users? What year will that be? So if those are the two things, and we'll start with you, Isaac.
What was the first one?
Just any final thoughts, anything.
Okay, final thoughts.
Where do you want people to go? What do you want them to do?
All right. Yeah, so go check out CHOMP. Would love to hear your feedback and advice on how to make the UX better. Yeah, final thought. And then my prediction for the year that we will have a 1 billion user crypto app is probably somewhere between 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
So if you haven't checked out Moonwalk, it's available in the App Store and Google Play for iOS and Android users. So definitely check it out. And as Isaac said, please give feedback. Like that's all that we want. Be critical. That's how we
love
make
your feedback.
Yeah, and you can be mean. I don't care. It's how it gets better. It's fine. And the more of it, the better. I feel like people are always afraid to share that, but it just makes us improve the product. So ultimately, all we need. And the delusional optimist in me says in the next year, 5 years or less. So I'm hoping that it's on the nearer end, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, as an Olympic karate medalist, I want to bring my champion mindset into the crypto world. So I'm gonna tell you, like my advice to you is like think big, okay? Don't think about like crypto neighborhood. Think wider. Aim at the whole world. Like in DuelDuck, we have like different opportunities for any kind of like peers. Yeah. Well, right now we are raising funds and building the partnerships. Like we are welcoming everybody who wants to join our way. Like we will probably become the part of your way as well. And what I learned from my sport is that even individual sports like karate is, like every achievement is the result of teamwork and collaboration. So together we can do better than competing with each other. We can do better and more, of course.
How many years?
How many years worth? What?
Until 1 billion users on a consumer crypto app. How many years?
Let's talk next year, okay?
Okay, let's talk next year. I like the
Crossroads,
optimism.
okay.
Let's go with that. Thank you, guys. Let's give a big round of applause to everybody who's up here, and thank you so much.